Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a literal game changer in the history of ideas. Back in 1895, Swami Vivekananda delivered a series of lectures in New York that completely upended how the West viewed Eastern philosophy. He didn't just come over and share some ancient mystical traditions. Instead, he brought this highly logical, fiercely analytical framework to the table. He framed the ancient practice of Raja Yoga not as some blind belief system, but as a rigorous, verifiable science of the human mind.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this quote right here, it's the absolute bedrock of his entire teaching. Each soul is potentially divine. Now, the goal of this philosophy isn't to ask you to blindly believe in a higher power outside of yourself. It's actually about manifesting your own internal divinity through a very specific, scientifically worked-out methodology. It's all about self-realization through direct experience, completely free from superstition.
So, to understand how this all works, we're going to follow a step-by-step journey today. We'll start with the science of religion, explore the cosmic concepts of Akasha and Prana, lay down the moral foundations, figure out how to master body and energy, take the inner mental journey, and finally reach the ultimate goal, samadhi.
Let's get right into part 1, the science of religion, and treating the mind as a laboratory.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the stark contrast between two very different approaches to spirituality. This was probably Vivekananda's most radical idea, that religion should literally be treated as an exact science, demanding the exact same level of observation and proof as chemistry or physics. On one hand, you have dogmatic belief, which relies heavily on blind faith, secondary rituals, or just taking what's written in books as absolute fact. But Raja Yoga proposes something entirely different. It argues that if there is a soul, well, you must be able to perceive it yourself. And the instrument for that observation, it's your own human mind. When your mind's scattered rays of attention are finally concentrated, they illuminate your internal world. Basically, your mind becomes the ultimate scientific laboratory.
As you can see from the historical texts we're looking at, the teachers of the science of yoga declare that religion isn't just based on the experiences of ancient people. In fact, they say no one can truly be religious until they have those exact same perceptions themselves. Vivekananda is proving a massive point here. Religious truth is verifiable. It is completely accessible to literally anyone who is willing to roll up their sleeves and run the experiment.
All right, moving to part 2, Akasha and Prana explained. Let's talk about the physics of the universe. Before we can master the mind, we actually need to zoom way out to the macrocosmos. We have to understand the underlying physics of this yogic philosophy. How is the universe actually built? Well, according to this system, the universe is made up of two primary materials. The first is Akasha. You can think of Akasha as the fundamental infinite matter of the universe. It is this omnipresent, all-penetrating material existence. Everything that has a physical form, from the air you breathe, to liquids, to solids, right down to the very cells in your own body, it all evolves out of this Akasha.
But here's the thing. Matter can't just organize itself, right? It needs energy. Enter Prana. Prana is the infinite, omnipresent, manifesting power that acts upon Akasha to create the universe as we know it. It shows up as motion, as gravitation, as the nerve currents in your body, and yes, even as thought force. And what's absolutely incredible is that the great electrical pioneer Nikola Tesla actually met Vivekananda in Paris. Tesla was deeply fascinated by these exact concepts of Akasha and Prana. He even believed he could prove them mathematically, which is just a huge testament to the scientific credibility of these ancient ideas.
On to part 3, the moral foundations, the path of Ashtanga.
Having looked at the massive scale of the universe, we're now going to transition back down to the micromind and look at the practical, step-by-step laboratory method to master it. And this brilliantly illustrates the entire roadmap at a single glance. Ashtanga literally translates to 8 limbs. These are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. These 8 limbs form a perfectly sequenced scientific ladder. You can't skip a rung.
So we start at the absolute base. Step 1 is yama. This deals with foundational self-control, things like non-injury to others, truthfulness, and non-stealing. Then step 2 is niyama, which focuses on your personal discipline. We're talking cleanliness, contentment, and dedicated study. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that these first 2 steps are non-negotiable moral trainings. Without this basic purification, your mind is just going to remain chaotic, and honestly, no higher practice of yoga is ever going to bear fruit for you.
Part 4. Mastering body and energy, preparing the vessel.
Once that moral foundation is completely locked in, we move up the staircase to prepare our physical vessel. It has to be ready to handle the intense mental concentration that's coming. This brings us to the third limb, asana. Now, in our modern world, asana gets reduced to just physical fitness or stretching in a gym, right? But Vivekananda makes it very clear that asana is actually vital for physical cleansing and nerve discipline. You have to train your body to hold a steady, firm posture. Because if your physical body is constantly twitching or distracting you, your mind is never going to achieve any higher spiritual progress. Next up is the fourth limb, pranayama. And we really need to bust a massive modern myth right here. Breathing exercises, they are only a tiny, tiny fraction of what this actually is. As Vivekananda pointed out, pranayama means the control of prana, that infinite universal energy we just talked about. He uses this absolutely brilliant analogy. He says the breath is merely a silken thread. By controlling that delicate little thread of breath, we can eventually grasp the thicker nerve currents, then we can grasp our thoughts, and finally, we can grab hold of the immense universal rope of prana itself.
Part 5. The Inner Mental Journey. Turning Inward. Okay, so with the physical body steady and the vital energy controlled, we can now direct the laboratory of the mind entirely inward. The goal is to stop its chaotic, constantly changing modifications, which are known as vrittis. Let's see how this builds, sequentially deepening our internal focus. First, we have pratyahara, which means actively restraining your senses from attaching to external objects. You are literally locking the outside world out. Then comes dharana, where you fix your mind on one single internal spot. And once that focus becomes an unbroken, continuously flowing current, boom, you have reached dhyana, which is the state of true meditation.
You've got to look at the precision in this historical excerpt. Raja Yoga literally mathematically breaks down human focus. It says that if you can fix your mind on a single center for just 12 seconds, you've achieved a dharana. Multiply that, 12 of those 12-second holds makes a dhyana. And then, 12 of those unbroken dhyanas push you right across the final threshold into the ultimate state, samadhi.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 6, the ultimate goal, samadhi.
We have finally arrived at the absolute peak of the 8 limbs. This is where the laboratory experiment of the mind yields its ultimate, guaranteed result. Samadhi is the superconscious state. It transcends normal human reason entirely. In this state, perception actually becomes entirely objectless. You enter what is historically called the Chidakasha, or the knowledge space, where you transcend all your physical limitations and rejoin the universal mind. In Samadhi, the soul finally gets to shine in its own true unblemished nature.
So we started all the way out with the macro physics of the universe, akasha and prana, and we ended in the deeply transcendent space of samadhi. I think this really proves that true religion, at its core, can be a rigorous, step-by-step science of self-realization. So I want to leave you with this thought today. If mastering these 8 sequential steps, starting with simple moral truths and just a steady posture, literally unlocks the unlimited potential of the universe right inside your own mind, what's stopping you from taking that very first step today?